in boxing, computer science technology, I personally don't think works. Because you take me, for instance, I'm fat, I'm bald, people say I'm out of shape. I don't do any of that with computers and numbers on a screen and all that stuff. But yet, I always win. So it obviously means all. And there's a lot of fights to suggest that as well. Like when you look at the likes of Anthony Joshua, who follows all them rules, science rules, and numbers on a screen and whatnot. And you look at Andy Ruiz, who didn't do anything apart from eat Snickers for the full 2 weeks that he had, and went in there and knocked him out, and then probably didn't even train for the rematch and took him the distance. So there's a lot of stuff to say that all the numbers and things and the science doesn't really work in boxing. I don't think it does anyway.
What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe, and lick off the bell. So we just heard there from your man's Tyson. Oh, Fury airing out and having a go on Anthony Johnson quick. Wow, it's peak right now for your man's Anthony Johnson. What can I say on this one? In fact, before we get to the peak part, I do want to say your man the YB is actually one of the first people to say this. I've been saying this. I've been saying all the sports science rubbish. Now, in fact, let me clarify that. Sports science can play a role. There's no doubt there is an efficient way, or in life, in everything in life, yeah, there's always a spectrum. There's always going to be the most optimal way of doing things and the least optimal way. So in life, in every task, you've got to almost A/B test what's getting the best results. And over time, and that's what trainers are really supposed to do. Trainers are supposed to be old and full of knowledge because they've had time to test, okay, this worked, this didn't work, kind of thing. But these sports science cats, number one, I've never heard of any of them actually originating in the sport of boxing, if that makes sense. Most of these, for example, when Dillian White goes to Loughborough, yeah? When Dillian White goes to Loughborough and AJ goes to wherever he goes, the sports science guys that come over, they ain't originated in boxing. Most of these guys are from the Olympic cycling team and Olympic track team, 100%. And they think, we'll come over here and, oh, I'm from Olympic cycling. We won 3 gold medals. I'll tell you what to do. Let's get on the cycle then. 100%, that's what they do. Yeah? And I believe that's 100% what happened. And that's why you see Dillian White on the cycle, giving it all on the spinner, yeah? Doing his spin class, and then guess what? His legs are like Bambi. Oops. How'd that make sense? Wait a minute. How are you doing all that spinning, but then against Joseph Parker, your legs are like Bambi? I thought you'd been doing the spinning, hadn't you? I thought you'd been doing the gold medalist Chris Hoy. Yeah? I thought you had Chris Hoy legs. Oops. So what we now know that, categorically, and I've been saying this for the longest time, and if you don't believe this, you don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as cross-training. Or in Telai, there is such thing as cross-training. What I mean by cross-training is when you think that you can do one sport and it gets you fit for the other sport. Now, cross-training can work to some extent, but it's not optimal, is the point. So let's call it out of 10. Out of 10, yeah, if you can spend, and we know, like, your body has finite time. You can only work out 2-3 hours a day at the most. Anything more than that, you get injuries or you get overworked as such. So if you've got limited time, 2 hours, 3 hours a day, really it's probably barely 2 hours of intense work. If you've got 2 hours a day, why would you spend that period of time doing another sport? Don't make no sense to me. Don't make no sense whatsoever. But these funny style sports science guys, they come in, and that's the thing, that's one of my criticisms of science in general. Science here is only really opinions, backed up by other people. So for example, some sports science guy 20-30 years came along and said, oh, by training other sports, it makes you fitter. And then a few of his friends jumped on the bandwagon and signed off on it, which is what you call what do they call them things? That's when you, well, yeah, basically, I think they call it a citation. That's what oh yeah, we've cited his research, and that kind of that signs off on it. Oh yeah, we've got 100 citations, which means everyone's sucking your research off. But it don't prove nothing. You can have one study of 9 people, And with sport, it's actually very difficult to. It's very difficult to. A lot of the metrics they use. It's not very scientific, if that makes sense. For example, trying to prove fitness is difficult, or trying to prove sport-specific fitness is difficult. For example, how do you know if a boxer's fit or not? You don't, do you? It's not like we can plug ourselves into a machine and it says, oh, Tyson Fury is 95 out of 100 fitness. It's very difficult to actually track, and that's why these so-called scientists are able to come along and say, oh yeah, do it my way, because my way is super scientific. And that's why people like Dillian White and AJ, these universities come along and they say, look, we've got all the equipment, we've got all the machines, and it gets them gassed. Because you think you've watched all the sci-fi movies, you think, wow, I'm in this chamber, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm all plugged in. Next thing you know, round 10, and you're like Bambi. Oops. Yeah. Round 10, no gas left. AJ, no gas after 2 rounds. And it's one of them ones. So 100%, sports science dons, full of rubbish. What you want to do, and the YB know is 100%. If you ain't doing a sport, don't bother. There ain't no such thing as cross-training. It's a waste of time. Jogging, waste of time. Because you ain't never going to be jogging in a boxing ring. Jogging's a big myth, in my opinion. I'm not sure where they got it from. And tell you a lie, it's not a myth. It came from 100 years ago. 100 years ago, boxers were jogging. So they thought, it's just kind of carried it on. It adds no value whatsoever. No value, just jogging. And half the reason you see these boxers, they can't hold their hands up, because you've been jogging. I mean, how can your shoulder stamina increase from jogging? Explain it to me. I don't get it. When your arms are burning and you can't hold them up no more, how's jogging fixing that problem? Yeah? How's jogging helping you maintain your stance with a nice stable stance? How's jogging doing that? You ain't working in a stable stance from jogging. But that's what these guys be doing. Running. And I believe that's why they run out of gas super quick. But I bet if you put them on a track... I mean, look at... A great example. Look at Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant was meant to be training with his super duper trainer. Oh, he got this trainer. Oh, hey, look at you running track. I mean, the reason you can see these things is because it's on all the documentaries, all the pre-fight documentaries. You see Caleb Plant running around. Oh, he running with his next... He got this super duper Olympic trainer. Oops, what happened to that? What happened to that? Your legs all burnt out looking. And for example, yeah, the reason I know is BS is because you don't see people gassing out like that. We can see people do the Tour de France, for example. You don't see people just dropping off like that. And I guess it is different to an extent because boxing, you're being hit. But I don't know. There's a reason, for example, Floyd Mayweather. He don't gas. I've never seen him hanging like that. I guess he's a smaller fighter, but nonetheless, I've seen a whole bunch of smaller fighters run out of gas as well. Or definitely fatigue to a high level. And Floyd was known to be one of the guys who stays in the gym and... what's the point I'm making? Who stays in the gym, and he was known for someone who compounds the work. In fact, a great example of someone who was the opposite of Floyd Mayweather would be Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton would come in for 8 weeks and he thought he was an athlete. That in most other sports, that's unheard of. If you're a runner, if you're a swimmer, you're doing it year round. You'd be lucky to get 2-3 weeks off a year. These boxers rock up, think an 8-week camp counts. You're never going to be nowhere near peak fitness. And that's why I believe these guys gas after half the fight. Because they ain't taking it serious. Oh, I can't be in the gym because I haven't got a date. Wow, you haven't got a date. Every other sport, yeah, has to prepare knowing they haven't got no date, but it's coming soon, for example. Dates are relevant. For example, in the sport I was in July, you know every year, July, August time, you're going to be performing. So you best get ready. What do you need a date for? You know you need to be at peak fitness 6 months from now. Boxers know I'm fighting a few times this year, let me be fit. But it's the culture of the sport. The culture of the sport is, 8-week camp. I'm not sure where they got that from. I'm not sure what planet that started from, that you need 8 weeks to get peak fitness. No one will ever be peak fitness in 8 weeks. Michael Phelps, for example, he went about 10 years having less than 8 days off. For example, that's peak fitness, because you compound the gains year after, or month after month after month. This whole business of, well, have 9 months off and 8 weeks on, is it really a shock that you run out of gas or you're not peak? I don't think so. I mean, look at Tyson Fury, for example. There's no reason Tyson Fury, in my opinion, couldn't have gone in there and not run out of gas. He himself even admitted, well, he ain't really been training or whatever else. Boxing's really the only sport you can get away with it. Because in any other sport, you come in and out, you ain't going to make the final, in my opinion. And there's no other sport, you can turn up, do 6 weeks, and then be Olympic finalist. No other sport. But because boxing's quite niche or whatever, well, I'm not sure how you explain it. I think it probably is the niche nature, actually, because the more people do a sport, the more elite it gets, if that makes sense. When you've only got 0.1% of the population doing a sport, it's relatively easy to be the best. For example, football, you really have got to be a don to be football in the UK, ain't you? Yeah, I guarantee you, there's no cat just rocking up, doing 6 weeks and becoming a Premiership footballer, because you've got so many men want to do it. When you're in a niche sport, it's obviously easier. Not to mention the fact the culture of the sport is down bad as well. But anyway, let's get back to the point. Your man Tyson Fury punking Anthony Johnson, punking Dillian White and telling them, listen, all that clean hearts win rubbish, what happened to that? What happened to that when Usyk was in there? What happened to it? And I think even more so than the scientific thing, I think what Tyson Fury could have said here is that ultimately, having a big heart is better than having a clean heart. Oops. Isn't it? Because we know Tyson Fury's heart isn't the cleanest based on history. But so far, he get job done. Yeah? He get job done. Your man Anthony Johnson, he had all the clean heart and all the sports science dons, and how'd it working out for you? Because what Anthony Johnson forgot to mention was, having a clean heart's alright, but having a clean, small heart, what's that good for? Yeah? Having a clean heart that's nowhere to be found. Wait there, Anthony Johnson. You got a clean heart, alright, but where is it? And can't no one see it? Wait there. Mr. Johnson, your heart may be clean, but it's non-existent. That's why you was in there getting your ears boxed off by a cruiserweight and didn't feel no shame. In fact, the little amount of shame you felt, you came into the press conference and said, I hope the fans appreciate the hard work I put in. Wow. That's how delusional you and your team have got you. Bottom line. So yeah, Tyson Fury is right. All that funny style training. I mean, look at AJ again. How many years have we been talking about AJ's cardio? How many years? And the worst thing is, he wasn't even... That's the worrying thing. The worrying thing is, and that's again why I believe he ain't going to win the rematch, because even if he tried to put it on Usyk, he wasn't putting it on Usyk at all and still ran out of gas. So how's he going to go in there with his current training team and be able to do anything? Because he hasn't got I've been saying this for years. He hasn't got the gas tank. Because his training team don't know what they're doing. He's jogging. Doing computers. Like Fury said. Bottom line. And at least the thing with Fury is, at least when he ran out of gas, and this is something I do appreciate, when you're throwing big heavy shots, and when you're being emotional, because one thing for sure, Fury and Wilder were emotional in that fight. When you're putting emotional effort into punches, that is knackering. That's for sure. And in my opinion, the jury's out whether or not you can actually be conditioned to that level. Because people like Tyson, people like Floyd Mayweather, yeah, he looks fit, but we never actually saw him go in there and really try and throw leather. I'm not sure. I wouldn't like to speculate on whether that's possible until I've smoked Tyrone. I'll let you know. Yeah. Once I've gone in there and I've worked Tyrone for 12 rounds, I'll tell you. Yeah, it's possible. But until then, like I said, the jury's out. Because Tyson Fury, to his credit, is massive. 6'9", 270 pounds, and him and Wilder was swinging in there. So yeah, he ran out of gas, but even then, he won the fight, and he was in there, against someone who's supposed to have a clean heart and he's supposed to be a super athlete. So again, for me, it comes down to the fact that, number one, you can be fit, because Tyson Fury has proven even when he ain't even half training, he can be fit. But number two, what possibly supersedes all of that so-called fitness and sports science is your heart. Yeah, because there is a place you can go. There's a place you can go where you refuse to lose. Mr. Johnson, where that place at? He don't know. He couldn't tell you. Because if he could, he wouldn't have got whooped by Usyk in such a pathetic fashion. And the thing that AJ superfans don't get is, this wasn't the case yet where Mr. Johnson got smoked and he was trying his best and Usyk was just boxing circles around him and he was marching forward and he just couldn't, you know what I'm saying? That wasn't the case. Usyk essentially dog walked him and AJ was just following him like a dog, in my opinion. In fact, that's the best way of explaining it. AJ versus Usyk just dog walked him. Yeah, a good pup. Come on, puppy. And AJ was just following him around the ring. 100%. Dog walked. Yeah? And guess what? All you AJ super fans out there, if you don't like it, do something about it. What are you going to do? Yeah, I'll tell you what, you ain't going to do nothing. That's what you're not going to do. You're going to stay moaning and hoping. Oh, but YB, Rob's Olympic champion trainer and YB, but... And again, the worst thing is for me is the fact that even with the new funny style that Mr. Anthony Johnson has, that new funny style, the dancing one, yeah, even in doing that, they still can't help him with his cardio. Did you see the last round? He still had no gas tank. It's actually unbelievable. Before, yeah, people would criticise the gas tank, but he was going in there and banging for God knows how many rounds. Now, there's no banging. And he's still, that was arguably the worst I've seen AJ in terms of gas tank. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess you could argue the Klitschko fight was bad, but again, the Klitschko fight, he actually loaded up for a full round, put a full round of work in. And back then, you can give him the excuse of naivety. He was 4 years less fit as such. He had 4 years less knowledge. Because in a way, when it comes to cardio, knowledge and experience and calmness, which comes with experience, those elements are supposed to grow under top-level tutelage. So right there, 4 years later, you're in there with a less demanding fight with Usyk, and you're running out of gas in a worse way. He was literally sitting on the ropes. The ropes held him up. If them ropes weren't there, he'd have gone flat on his back. And in a way, people will say things, oh, YB, why are you trying to kick him out when he's down? And YB, why are you rating Tyson Fury for? Well, listen, maybe this is what it's going to take. And if I was advising Tyson Fury, I'd tell him to stay on, Mr. Johnson. Because nothing else won't work. Yeah, for the last 2 years, we've been trying to educate, trying to communicate. But it falls on deaf ears. So now we have to go to the punkin, Mr. Johnson. Yeah? Listen, Mr. Johnson. Yeah? Listen, Anthony Johnson. What's wrong with you? Tyson Fury, he stayed punking you. Ruiz went in there, eating Snickers, and you ran away from him. Yeah? You went 50-50 with him, with a man on Snickers.